Don't be selfish, Clara. Beatrice needs this lace for her bouquet wrap. You're 28 and single, you're never going to wear this anyway. My mother snapped her heavy fabric scissors shut, slicing right through the middle of the vintage wedding dress I had been saving since I was 12. She tossed a shred of my grandmother's silk onto the floor like it was garbage. Consider it repayment for raising you, she said, finally looking up with cold, dead eyes. I stood in the doorway, unable to breathe. My dress was in pieces, and right next to her hand sat the second blow. My own engagement ring. Freshly polished and sitting in a velvet box marked Beatrice's something old. I stood there and watched my own mother cut up my future to decorate my sister's present. Have you ever had your kindness weaponized against you by the people who were supposed to protect you? Drop a comment and tell me your story. I'm reading every single one. The gravel crunched under my tires as I drove away from the ranch, leaving a trail of dust in the Texas heat. I didn't speed. I didn't cry. I just drove with the steady, mechanical precision of someone who had done this drive 1,000 times before. But this time, the rearview mirror didn't just show a house. It showed a crime scene. For the last 5 years, I had been the invisible steel beam holding that rotting structure together. It started when I was 23, fresh out of grad school with a geology degree and a mountain of student loans. Patricia called me, sobbing. The bank was threatening foreclosure. Dad's investments had tanked. They were going to lose the legacy, the history, the home. We just need a bridge, Clara, she had said. Just until we get back on our feet. So, I built them a bridge. Every month, on the 1st, I wrote a check for $2,000. That was $24,000 a year. Over 5 years, that was $120,000. I lived in a studio apartment the size of a walk-in closet. I drove a 10-year-old truck with a cracked windshield. I ate ramen and instant coffee so that Patricia could keep her country club membership and Beatrice could drive a brand new Mercedes. I remembered the day Beatrice got that car. I had just transferred my rent money to cover their property tax. I pulled up to the ranch for Thanksgiving, and there it was, a white C-Class with a red bow. Beatrice hugged me, smelling of expensive vanilla, and said, "Isn't it gorgeous?" Mom said I needed a safe car for my commute. Her commute was 10 minutes to a boutique where she worked part-time for store credit. I should have stopped then. I should have burned the checkbook. But they had trained me well. They had planted a lie deep in my chest, that my money was the only way to buy my seat at their table. But the real theft wasn't the monthly stipend. It was the land itself. I thought back to my 18th birthday. Most kids get a party or a car. I got a meeting with the family lawyer. Patricia sat across from me, sliding a stack of documents over the mahogany desk. "It's just estate planning, honey," she had said, her voice dripping with that fake syrup. "We're putting the house and the surface land in Beatrice's name for tax purposes. Since you're the smart one, the scientist, we're giving you the mineral rights. It's symbolic, really. Just the rocks underneath." I was 18. I trusted my mother. I signed the quitclaim deed. I signed away the mansion, the pool, the gardens, the stables. I signed away the surface of the earth. I took the useless rocks because I wanted to be a good daughter. I didn't know then what I know now. I didn't know that in Texas, land is like a layer cake, and the person who owns the frosting doesn't matter. The person who owns the filling owns the bakery. A notification pinged on my phone, snapping me back to the present. It was an automated alert from my bank. Scheduled transfer. $2,000 to Patricia Dwyer. I pulled over to the side of the highway. My hands were steady as I unlocked my phone. I opened the banking app. I scrolled to the recurring transfer that had drained my life for 60 months. I hit cancel. Then I opened my messages. I scrolled back 3 months to a text Patricia had meant to send to Beatrice, but sent to me by mistake. It read, "Don't worry about the deposit, sweetie. The ATM just cleared. We can book the florist." The ATM. That's what I was to them. A machine that dispensed cash and required no maintenance, no love, no respect. I looked out the window at the dry, scrubby landscape. They thought they had buried me. They thought they had tricked me into taking the dirt while they kept the view. But they forgot that I'm a geologist. I know how to read the earth, and I knew that the useless rocks they laughed about were sitting on top of a pressure cooker waiting to blow. I put the truck in gear. I wasn't going back to my apartment. I was going to see the only person who knew the true value of what I owned. I was going to see Gabriel. I parked the truck in a reserved spot in downtown Austin, ignoring the stares I got for driving a beat-up pickup into a garage full of Teslas and Porsches. I took the elevator to the top floor of the glass tower, smoothing the wrinkles in my blouse. The receptionist looked up as I stepped off the elevator. "Miss Dwyer, Mr. Sterling is expecting you." I walked past the glass-walled conference rooms, past the rows of analysts staring at screens, straight to the corner office. Gabriel was standing by the window, looking out over the city. When I walked in, he turned. He wasn't just a tycoon. He was a force of nature. 6'2", sharp suit, eyes that missed nothing. And for the last 6 months, he had been my husband. We had eloped a week after I found out Patricia was draining my trust fund. No guests, no white dress. Just a justice of the peace and a prenup that protected me from my family. They did it, didn't they? He asked, his voice low. He didn't need to ask. He saw it in the way I held myself, rigid and cold. She cut the dress, I said. And she gave Beatrice my ring. Gabriel's jaw tightened. He walked over to the massive oak table in the center of the room. Then it's time. He unrolled a large map across the table. It was a seismic survey of the ranch. Look at this, he said, pointing to a cluster of bright red blotches directly under the main house. That's a natural gas pocket, Clara. It's massive. One of the biggest deposits in the county, and it is sitting 500 feet below your mother's rose garden. I traced the red shape with my finger. It looked like a heart, or maybe a bomb. And here, Gabriel said, sliding a thick legal file next to the map. The receipts. I opened the folder. First, the quitclaim deed. The document Patricia had made me sign when I turned 18. The one where I gave up the house and the land to Beatrice because girls like me didn't need big estates. The document where she laughed and said I could keep the mineral rights because the land was just worthless limestone. Second, the foreclosure notice. Patricia hadn't paid the mortgage in 8 months. She had taken my $2,000 every month and spent it on caterers and cars. The bank had auctioned off the debt last week, and Gabriel's shell company had bought it. Third, the FBI file. A forensic accounting report detailing every time Patricia had forged my signature to access the trust fund my grandmother left me. $500,000. Gone. She's squatting on my land, Gabriel. I whispered, the realization finally hitting me. She doesn't own the house. She doesn't own the dirt. She owns nothing. And you own the right to drill, Gabriel said. In Texas, the mineral estate is dominant. That means you can do whatever is necessary to the surface to access what's underneath. I looked at the map again. The gas pocket was directly under the living room. Directly under the spot where Beatrice would be cutting her cake in 3 hours. I pulled out my phone. I dialed the number for the drilling crew foreman I had put on standby weeks ago. This is Clara Dwyer, I said when he answered. We're go for launch. I want the rigs rolling. We break ground at noon. Noon? The foreman asked. Ma'am, isn't there a wedding happening there today? Yes, I said. Don't be late. I hung up and looked at Gabriel. I don't just want them out. I want them to understand exactly what they threw away. They thought I was just the dirt under their feet. Well, now the dirt is coming for them. Gabriel smiled, a shark-like grin that promised chaos. Then let's go crash a wedding. The wedding looked like a Pinterest board threw up on a drought-stricken cow pasture. White tents billowed in the heat, surrounded by imported hydrangeas that were already wilting under the Texas sun. It was rustic chic, which in Patricia's vocabulary meant overpriced and underfunded. We pulled up to the gate just as the band started playing a cover of a love song that Kenneth definitely didn't understand. I watched from the passenger seat of Gabriel's Maybach. The contrast was almost comical. Inside the gates, my family was playing dress-up with money they didn't have. Outside, the real power was sitting in an air-conditioned car, checking the time. Are you ready? Gabriel asked. He didn't look at me. He was watching the drilling crew's GPS tracker on his phone. They're 2 miles out. I was born ready, I said. I stepped out of the car. I wasn't wearing a bridesmaid dress. I wasn't wearing pastels. I was wearing a sharp, tailored black suit that cost more than my first car. It was a funeral suit. And in a way, I was here to bury something. We walked toward the reception tent. The crowd was a mix of local politicians and cattle barons Patricia was trying to impress. She was holding court near the bar, laughing too loudly, her hand gripping a champagne flute like a lifeline. We wanted to keep it intimate, I heard her say to the mayor's wife. But you know how hard it is to hide success. Success. She was celebrating theft and calling it success. Then I saw Beatrice. She was standing on the dance floor, preening for the photographer. The dress, my grandmother's dress, looked like a casualty of war. The bodice had been taken in so aggressively the seams were straining, and the delicate lace hem dragged through the dust. She looked ridiculous. And she looked triumphant. Kenneth stood next to her, sweating through his rental tux. He kept checking his phone, tapping the screen with a nervous, jerky rhythm. He was probably checking his bank balance, waiting for the ATM to dispense another hit. He didn't know the machine was out of order. Permanently, when Beatrice saw me, her smile sharpened. She grabbed the microphone from the DJ stand and tapped it. The feedback whined, silencing the crowd. Oh, look, she announced, her voice amplified and sickly sweet. My sister Clara finally made it. I know it's hard for her to come out of her shell. She's so independent, you know, always digging in the dirt while the rest of us build the legacy. The crowd chuckled. It was a polite, dismissive sound. Patricia whispered something to her neighbor, rolling her eyes. They thought I was the joke. They thought I was the failure who showed up empty-handed to the coronation. I didn't flinch. I didn't blush. I looked at my watch. 12:15. The heavy machinery was exactly 1 mile away. The ground beneath us was about to become the most expensive real estate in the county, and they were treating it like a party venue. Let them laugh, Gabriel whispered, his voice a low rumble only I could hear. They're standing on a trap door. I squeezed his hand, then let go. I didn't walk toward the bar. I didn't walk toward my seat at the back. I walked straight toward the stage. Beatrice's smile faltered as I climbed the steps. She gripped the mic tighter. Clara? What are you doing? I reached out and took the microphone from her hand. It wasn't a request. I'm not here to toast you, Beatrice, I said, my voice echoing across the lawn. I'm here to evict you. The silence that followed was heavy. The kind of silence that usually precedes a natural disaster. 300 guests stared at me. The band had stopped playing. The only sound was the wind snapping the white canvas of the tents. Beatrice laughed, but it was a brittle, frantic sound. She looked at the crowd, desperate to pull the attention back to her fantasy. Okay. Very funny, Clara. You've had too much champagne. Security, can we? I'm not drunk, Beatrice, I said, my voice calm, amplified by the speakers so that it reached the back of the pasture. And I'm not leaving. Because unlike everyone else here, I'm not a guest. I'm the operator. I nodded to Gabriel. He said nothing, just tapped his tablet. Behind the wedding cake, the screen meant to show Beatrice and Kenneth's love story flickered. The image changed to a legal document. The quitclaim deed my mother forced me to sign at 18, stripping me of the house and land while letting me keep the worthless mineral rights. Recognize this, Mom? I asked. Patricia went ashen. Gabriel swiped again. A seismic map filled the screen. A massive red reservoir beneath our feet. You should have let me finish my geology degree, I said. That red zone is a natural gas reserve worth about $50 million and I own it. Beatrice scoffed. It's my venue. You can't touch it. Actually, I can. Gabriel pulled up the Texas property code. The mineral estate is dominant. That means I have the legal right to drill, even if it destroys the surface. I own the gas, I said. You own the grass. And drilling starts now. The ground trembled. Glasses chimed. The cake wobbled. Then a bulldozer smashed through the gate, followed by a drilling rig tearing up the lawn loud, violent, and completely legal. Patricia screamed that it was her property. Correction, Gabriel said, handing Kenneth a document. It's mine. Kenneth read it, shaking. A foreclosure deed. 8 months unpaid, Gabriel announced. We bought the debt. Patricia, you're trespassing. Kenneth stepped back from Beatrice. You said you owned everything. You said she had a trust fund. She did, I cut in. Until Mom stole it. The screen showed the forensic report forged signatures. An empty account. Then the deputies arrived. Patricia Dwyer, the sheriff said, cuffing her. You're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and forgery. Phones were out. The wedding became a viral crime scene. Kenneth walked away. Beatrice collapsed, sobbing. I nodded to the foreman. Drill. The rig roared to life, ripping into the lawn where the cake had stood. As Patricia screamed my name, I felt nothing. Some bloodlines are poison, you don't preserve them. You cut them out. Beatrice cried that I took everything. I leaned close. You wanted the spotlight. Enjoy it. I signed the work order Clara Dwyer Sterling and left without looking back. No ring. No family. Just solid ground beneath my feet. Patricia faced federal prison. Beatrice was abandoned and trending as the fraud bride. And me? I finally owned what was always mine. I didn't do it for money. I did it because some people only understand loss after they've stolen everything. If you think I went too far or not